Here we are, live. Fantasy basketball mailbag. A week to go in the NBA regular season, but Michael Bolton, he's still here.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and unfortunately, after months and months of rehab, I have to undergo shoulder surgery that ends my season. That could have happened months ago, but here we are, ready to go, and I'm going to take the next 5 months off. But that's okay, because we are going to be joined by someone that's telling us all about fantasy basketball or answering your questions, but we'll get to that in a second because today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. It helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. All right, here we are for the final time this regular season. Mailbag, Dan Titus, welcome. You're mute, Dan. Unmute.
That was his amateur hour.
Here we
What's
go.
Up, Josh? How you doing,
mate?
man?
We're all tired. We're all tired. We are 24 weeks into this regular season, and things go wrong all the time. But we are here, and we are ready to answer fantasy basketball questions. Gab Eshe, is Santi Aldama a Roto drop now that Brandon Clark is back and looking good?
I would say so. I mean, at this point, Aldama, even whether it be this rotation lineup thing, Jaren Jackson Jr. is still out there, but I think over the last few games that we've seen Brandon Clark return, 13.7 rebounds, that's pretty much what he's good for right now, and he looks pretty good. So, yeah, I think you could safely drop Aldama. I don't really have much faith in him down the stretch here.
There's a couple of things with this is that the overall premise, sure, like drop him. Like we got a last-second rule out of him last game, so we know that nonsense is there. If you're giving zeros, you're done. All right, see you later. For a guy that's not even good, if you're giving zeros, you're done. The last game, he was pretty limited. And I'm not even sure how much it's to do with Clark. It's to do with Aldama not being good, not being consistent, and then the risk of random sits. Like, see you later. You don't want to have to deal with that stuff. It's not like we're talking about a top-end player here who's a top 10 guy. It's like, oh, what if? It's not that. We're talking about a guy who might sneak into the top 100 at times, but other times for the first 20 weeks this season has been trash most of that way through. Barry Barbasol asks a question, which is... just sort of glossing over the fact that Kawhi Leonard is out again. He's out for the back-to-back here, Thursday, Friday. He missed the game already. We sort of expected that he was going to be out this back-to-back, and he might miss the game on the weekend as well. We saw Norman Powell, Dan, start in place of him last time out. So do you think that Norman Powell is a good option for threes in percentages, is what Barry asks?
I mean, that's what he does. I don't know about the percentages. He's been about 48, 49% this year. So just know that can be a little bit volatile, but for threes and scoring for sure. And I think we're not going to see Kawhi Leonard for the rest of the week. So, I think you're going to get potentially 3 plays, depending on what your roster construction is, on Norman Powell this week. So, yeah, I would roll with him for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, we know what he does. Like, you're right. He hits threes. He'll score. He'll be good at free throws. The field goals, it can be iffy, but he's not going to do anything else. But that's okay, because at this point in the season, whether it's head-to-head or whether it's Roto, or if it's a points league, you're just looking for production in certain areas. Right? That's what you get. And in a points league, like someone who scores a lot is a better points league player than someone who gets a lot of steals or blocks. So it doesn't really matter. So yeah, his value is there. It's going to be ramped up, extra minutes, extra usage, and that's all of what's important. Brandon Marcus, is this Hayward Highsmith hot streak real? Well, this is really interesting because Highsmith has been in and out of this team's rotation. He, back on the 20th of March, Dan, he played 5 minutes and had 2 points. Then he went scoreless in 22 minutes. And then he had 18, 15, 20, 10, 14 with defensive stats, with rebounds, with hitting multiple threes in 5 consecutive games, which a lot of that's fluky, right? Like, I think he's missed, let's count it up, like 5 threes over the last 5 games. He had 100% night, 100% night, 83% night, 33, that's terrible, and then 50% from 3. So, like, no, it's 100% not real. Like, it's real in that it's happened, but we don't trust it. But what are we doing with Highsmith? Do you think he's at least, like, got to be someone you marginally consider?
In deep leagues, I think you can. I mean, the minutes are there. He's averaging over 20 and a half minutes over the last 3 games, 17 points, 6 boards, I don't think that that's unreasonable expectation if the Miami Heat continue to have players missing out of their starting lineup. This is the time, though, where Miami, I feel like, starts to tighten up. It's about to be the playoffs. So he looks like he's going to be a part of this rotation when it comes down to it. And, if they're giving him some extra run towards the end of the season, it makes a lot of sense, especially with him shooting so well. So I would kick the tires on it. Thursday, it's a light slate of games. You could at least stream them for Thursday. And then, if you have some other ads throughout the rest of the weekend, maybe reconsider for someone that maybe you can get another play on Saturday, because that's the only other game you're actually going to be able to start someone.
Yeah, I really don't love him as an option, but yeah, he has obviously been producing, but like you said, like the trust isn't there. And you're right, they have tightened up the rotation. They don't play Jaime Jaquez anymore because maybe he's not that good. So they've reduced his minutes down and they're giving those to Highsmith. But, that can flip at any point down. Like they could just say, well, now it's back to Caleb Martin. Now we're going to give Kevin Love back into the rotation in full minutes. Like who knows? But that could change really at any point. Here's a question, and I get this question a lot, and I don't know why. Is Kelly Olynyk a drop in a 12-team points league? Yes, I know he sat yesterday for rest. It was on a back-to-back. That's relatively, it was sort of expected. They have another back-to-back next week. But, and I've got this question so many times, what do I do with Kelly Olynyk? People go, oh yeah, Josh, you discounted the fact that he's not good in points leagues. Oh yeah, he's only a top 80 player over the last month in points leagues, averaging 33 fantasy points. So, honestly, I don't know what people want. What do you expect? Like, he's like top 30 in category leagues. He's top 80 in points leagues. Like, what on earth do you possibly want out of him? You just look at him and go, well, he's Kelly Olynyk. Why do I want to hold him? Well, you want to hold him because he's producing at an absolutely elite level for a bloke that you scooped up off the wire for nothing. And I know, it's annoying that he missed yesterday, but they do play Friday and Sunday, but with how good he has been, Dan, I think he's actually startable on those days, and I've got no real worry that he's not going to play them. Like, they didn't make up a fake injury. They just said resting on a back-to-back. So I think he's fine, and I think I would be holding on to him. I don't really see why I wouldn't.
I mean, at this point, there's just not many options in Toronto where you're going to get fantasy production from. Bruce Brown got hurt. Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett are back, but, RJ Barrett hasn't been known to miss a couple of games here and there for injury maintenance. It's the end of the season. There's really no one in the front court for Toronto. So why would you not start Kelly Olynyk? Because there's at least a point where he can give you rebounds. If he doesn't score, he can give you assists. They play through him. I think there's no downside in keeping Olynyk around unless he keeps on getting these random missed game opportunities. But I don't expect that to happen for, the rest of the – I mean, there's only a handful of games left. So them down so many bodies, start Olynyk.
Yeah, and they've got they play Friday, Sunday, the high volume games, but you are talking about a guy who's running at top 50 value over the last 2 weeks, right? So that's a guy that you start on those days. It's not Santi Aldama. It's someone who we know what's going to happen. Now, if they randomly decide that he's going to pop up as questionable on Friday, you go, oh, that's a little bit iffy, right? But if they just say he's off the injury report and ready to go, then we're ready to go. I'm surprised it took this long to get this question, Dan, but Armando says he's Malachi Flynn an ad after his 50 bomb in a 12-team points league. I would urge you, Armando, to go back and look at every other game that Malachi Flynn has played, and obviously this is the outlier. But I will say this, Dan, is that every game that Cade has sat, in all my recaps, I've always gone, yeah, he was much better than Marcus Sasser. Yeah, he's getting more minutes than Sasser. Is he a better player than Sasser? Every single time. And every single time it has been correct. He has been better than Marcus Sasser. So I guess the question here is, if Cade is out long term, and I don't know because obviously they won't tell us any information on this, there's marginal appeal on Flynn, but come on, I'm not prioritizing adding Malachi here. The only thing I would say, Dan, is they play on Saturday. So we're talking about a low volume day, so maybe, but the games that Cade plays, what does he play, 12 minutes? And that's a complete waste of a pick.
It's hard for me to get behind it because of what you said. I think right now, where I think we're just guessing as to which game Cade plays or not, I would add him over Marcus Sasser off of what we've seen in the limited minutes that Malachi Flynn's played. He just looks extremely confident, and he's shooting the ball particularly well when he gets the opportunity. Jaden Ivey also had a horrible game. They didn't really get much offense out of anyone other than Malachi Flynn yesterday. So I feel like that's just an outlier case that, hey, this dude went off for 50, hell of a game, great story, but we're not adding him in fantasy.
Yeah, I think you'd need to see more information about Cade, and even then, you can go back and look at all those other games that Cade has missed, and Flynn was serviceable enough, but not someone you go, man, I absolutely must. I have to have him. It was great. It's probably just going to stick as one of those big outliers. Shout out to Sadiq Bey. All right, we'll get back to your questions in a second, but today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners over at eBay Motors, they have teamed up with me all season long. Maybe they regret it, maybe they don't, but they're here for me to hopefully tell you the picks that are going to be great options for your fantasy team and the guys that are going to be guaranteed to fit on your roster. So who are eBay guaranteed fits picks of the week? Well, one of them isn't Malachi Flynn, but it is his teammate, Chimezie Metu, because they are giving him a consistent 28 minutes or so coming off the bench. Sometimes they start him, but not recently. And he's just delivering big numbers in terms of his defensive stats. You're getting a lot of steals. He's scoring decently well. And I really don't think that Simone Fontecchio is coming back. So Metu's role looks relatively locked in. Now, that could change in a heartbeat. We've seen that happen to many teams. We see 2 to 3 good games and then it disappears. And that is the perils of playing at this point of the year. But we want to assess what's happening with Metu. It's happening. Happy to have a crack at it. Happy to add him onto your team. And hopefully Metu, and amazing that I'm going to say this, but hopefully Chimezie Metu is someone who can drive you towards a fantasy championship. eBay Motors knows that getting the right players onto your team is what drives you to a championship. But eBay Motors hopefully doesn't rely on their parts to be the quality of Chimezie Metu, because they rely on actual good quality parts that you know are going to fit. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever it is that your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. Dan, when you're thinking about your baby, your car, when you're thinking of all the nice things you can put on it, how high up on that list is a roof rack, do you think?
Me, I barely even go out, man. Like, I'm not surfing, I don't ski. Roof rack is definitely low priority for me.
Yeah, not a big roof rack guy myself, but you know what? If I'm looking for a replacement bumper bar or LED headlights, eBay Motors is going to have it. You know what? Anything that you're looking for, Dan, you want to look at the big, like the gigantic exhaust, so that when you go down the street, all the windows in the houses shake. Like, I'm sure eBay can get that for you as well. And that is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. All right, Christopher Scott. LeBron played in the back-to-back. What are the chances he plays another? I don't really know how to answer that, Dan, but I'll just say the chances that he plays another are high, but the chances that he doesn't play in the other is also high. So let's say that they're both 50%. Like, he's not, you can't look at this and go, well, that's it. LeBron's playing every back-to-back, but I can't also tell you for sure that he's going to sit the back-to-back coming up, which they have across the weekend, I believe.
I'm going to bet that he plays. I mean, This was
the one to sit, though. If he was going to sit one against these two terrible teams, right, like, this should have been the one. But they obviously needed him to win.
It should have been. Yeah. I'm thinking with that Western standing so tight, I think everybody on these 6 through, I think you could say 5 through 10, 5 through 9 to the Lakers are going to be going for it. So if you have LeBron James, like, I think you could feel pretty confident he's going to try to play, because I don't think anyone wants to be in the play-in tournament in this Western Conference right now. You get to that 6th spot, it looks a little bit better for you. But, yeah, it's crazy the way that this West is shaking out. And I wasn't a huge fan of the play-in tournament initially, but I do feel like we're getting a little bit more competitiveness at the end of this season, especially with this Western Conference so deep.
Yeah, we are. Like, it's they're 1.5 games out of 6 at the moment, and there's 5 games left. And that is tough to make up, but it's not impossible. Like, you just win all of your games, and Phoenix loses too. But you got Phoenix and New Orleans and Sacramento ahead of you. It is possible. So yeah, I do think that. I guess it's going to depend on how his ankle feels and all that sort of stuff. Because, like I said yesterday, like, he said that if he gets hurt and doesn't play, they've got no chance. And he's right. Like, they are heavily reliant upon him and AD driving everything. So he does have to be a bit careful, but you know, they also have to make it in there to get that opportunity to win some rounds. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, given the fact that he played against those 2 trash teams that, you know, the Bucks wouldn't be able to beat, then you feel like the odds of him playing through it are a little bit better. Air Dunk says he's Metu, eBay Guaranteed Fit legend, or Jordan Goodwin, a better pickup in Roto. I still have my concerns about Jordan Goodwin. I think I would very comfortably take Chimezie Metu there. How about you, Dan?
I like what Metu's been doing, man. In 28 minutes over his last 8 games, the defensive stocks, man, 2.5 over that span. I think that there's more upside with Metu because he doesn't have that games cap concern as Goodwin does. But then also Memphis and what they're doing with their rotation, against Scottie Pippen Jr. in there, and Luke Kennard plays sometimes. It's just too volatile. I'd rather roll with Chimezie.
I don't really know. Like, it's hard to figure out exactly how many games old mate has got left. I think he's got 4 left, Jordan Goodwin, and they have 5 total games, or he's got 3 left out of the 5. I need to go and have a look at that. But he is he doesn't have a huge amount of time left on that contract. All I know is he cannot play every one of the remaining games, and they've got 2 sets of back-to-backs coming up. They're going to be sort of chopping and changing. You just can't really trust that. And when their per-game production is relatively similar, give me the guy who you feel more confident that's actually going to be out there and playing. All right, Wiz says, who do you consider to be currently must-roster players on the Utah Jazz? Dan, that is hard. They've had a terrible schedule this week. They played Tuesday. They're off Wednesday, Thursday, and then they play again Friday, Sunday. And we know that Lauri Markkanen's not coming back, and let's be fair, Jordan Clarkson's not coming back. We don't know about Walker Kessler and John Collins. So who do you think is a must-roster player on that team?
Bryce Sensabaugh. I think that's the player I would trust right now. Offensively, he's knocking down threes, scoring over 20 points per game. He rebounds well. I think in wake of Lauri Markkanen's absence, I think he's going to benefit the most. Maybe you could sprinkle in a little Taylor Hendricks. Omar Yurtseven might become relevant too, because Walker Kessler just got hurt. And he's a double-double threat when he plays, at least 25 to 28 minutes. So I feel like you have a few options out there, actually, but I would be looking more towards week 24 for that, not week 23.
Yeah, guys like Hendricks, George, Sensabaugh, Yurtseven, like, would you even start them on Friday or Sunday? Probably not, right? You might, but like, Sensabaugh was great last game. He was solid the game before that. He's also had many other starts where he's been bad. The guy that I'd consider must roster is Colin Sexton. Like, that's probably the only guy at this point, and even then, I think he's at risk of next week. And then things change a little bit where the schedule changes, but we just don't have that confirmation. So, yeah, after Tuesday, I said this many times. Like, I would have moved on from Hendricks and George and Sensabaugh, because you would have been able to get someone to play on Wednesday, Thursday. You weren't going to start them Friday, Sunday anyway. So right. The only guy I would hold there in that situation is Sexton, and I stand by that at this point. All right. David says, will Precious Achiuwa get enough minutes to be streamable if Josh the Hitman Hart is out? I would say 100%. Like, there's almost no way that he wouldn't. Like, who else would they start? He'd come in and probably play 40 minutes again, I'm guessing, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't – Bogey, like, he's not going to play. I think Achiuwa's shown enough in the absence of Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein for different parts of the year that he can be reliable for rebounding, points. I think you can roll with Achiuwa, assuming that Hart misses. But when does Hart ever miss a game? The dude plays 45 minutes a night, every night. So, like, yeah, it's going to be hard pressed for him to sit. Yeah,
we'll see what happens. Like, he's dealing with this wrist problem, but, like, obviously we know that Julius Randle is out for the season, which we've sort of known that's going to be happening
for quite some time.
Yeah, I think it was a day ago where Tom Thibodeau said, well, he could actually be back tomorrow. Thanks, Tom. That's really, really helpful of you. I really appreciate the candidness of your commentary. All right. Haley says, is Cam Whitmore going to see more minutes, or will it just stay in the low 20s? We don't know the future, Haley, but he's been sort of stuck in that high teens, low 20s minutes all season. There is an opportunity here without Şengün, but I don't really see much jumping up here for him in terms of minutes, unless you see it differently, Dan.
No, I mean, I think we can pretty much count out the Rockets for the play-in tournament right now. So if Ime Udoka decides to give the longer leash to the younger players, maybe we might see him more, but until Dylan Brooks is benched and Jabari Smith Jr. doesn't play power forward minutes, like, I don't see how he's just going to leapfrog those crew there and start playing, 30 minutes at the small forward or power forward spots with everybody else still there.
If they lose today against the Warriors and their play-in chances are basically done, so maybe that happens. But Udoka's also not someone who strikes me as like he's just going to sit those guys, or that they're going to necessarily have those fake sort of injuries to prioritize Whitmore. So it's possible, but if he does, it means it comes at the expense of Amen Thompson, and that really defeats the purpose of you're trying to develop someone if you're taking the development minutes away from another person that you're trying to develop at the same time. So I wouldn't bet it is possible. Like, it is easy to see how it could happen, but I wouldn't be expecting that's not something that I'm going, well, that's definitely a chance to happen really, really soon. Today's episode is brought to you also by LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to make sure you get the right people in for the right job, because you don't want to waste the time. You can't muck around as a small business owner. You've got so many things to do. You've got to go out there. You've got to be customer service, front facing, talk to the customers, be on calls, sales, marketing, and you've got to hire people. And you want to hire people to take that stress off you so things can run smoothly. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They've got access to over 1 billion professionals. You can stick your job ad right under their noses and get the right people in for you to interview. Hiring is easy when you've got that many quality candidates. In fact, small business owners have come to us and said, not to us, they didn't tell me, they told LinkedIn and they pass it on, but they said that they can find a qualified candidate within 24 hours, 86% of the time, every time. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and they don't have the time or the resources to hire. So get involved with LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Vincent says, are Golden State players valuable through the remaining days of the season? And I think that is interesting as a question because, sure, but they don't have this particularly favorable schedule. The thing that's going in their favor, Dan, and maybe this is what Vincent is hinting at, is the fact that, like you said earlier, is they're right in the mix of that seeding zone now. They're going to find it very hard to get out of the 10th or 9th spot. So to get to host a play-in game at home is going to be pretty tough for them. I would say they are 3 games behind the Kings, and that's a lot of ground to make up. So, yeah, we could say, well, they're going to have to play super hard every game, big minutes to all their guys to push their seeding through, and that might end up impossible for them. So they don't stand out to me as a team where I go, man, I've got to target Warriors guys.
I think they're valuable for Thursday, that being tonight, because there's only a handful of games, 5. So the bigger question is which Golden State Warriors are going to be able to hold on to and actually play. Now that Jonathan Kuminga's coming back, does that mean Trace Jackson-Davis? Steve Kerr has still said he's tinkering with the starting lineup, doesn't know if he wants to mess with it or not. But I think I would still hold Trace Jackson-Davis for at least the rest of the week, because they play 3 games, even though 2 of them are on bigger slates. Brandon Podziemski is the one I'm I feel like you could just drop him. I just don't know that there's going to be enough room for him to perform at this stage in the game for you to rely on him for a fantasy championship. But Kuminga, if he was dropped, pick him up. Trace Jackson-Davis, I think you can keep him for his stocks and his rebounding for the time being. But if Kuminga comes back in there and starts, I think he's the one that's going to be expendable.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I think I'd still hold on to Jackson-Davis. I think Podziemski can go. I think Clay can go. I think Chris Paul can go. There's just not enough there. And you've got to be pretty brutal here. But again, you said they play Thursday, then they play Friday, Sunday. So, on those days, are you even going to start? If you're not going to start someone on those days,
if you're not going to start them, cut them.
Yeah, see you later. What are we doing? You don't have to worry about holding on to them. Now, I'm going to ask a question. Then I'm going to come back to give you the correct answer, or what I think is the correct answer about Jordan Goodwin and his contract. So, Asada Taco, this is an interesting one. Do you see Day'Ron Sharpe ever getting playing time down the stretch with their season over? His rebounding rate is kind of insane. It is kind of insane, Asada Taco, but what we saw him yesterday is play 0 minutes because they decided they were going to prioritize Noah Clowney. I really like Clowney as a long-term prospect, and I thought there was a chance we'd get more Sharpe, but they have just said, nah, we're not interested in seeing you, Day'Ron. So I would say, I'm going to turn this question around, Dan, and say, don't worry about the Sharpe part, because they do seem to be out on him, but let's talk about 22 and 10 from Noah Clowney yesterday. What are you doing anything with that? What did that what sort of feelings did that enlarge in you? How did you go with that?
I was surprised. I mean, I don't have him added anywhere. I think if you have some dynasty prospects, it's certainly intriguing. Nick Claxton has a contract situation coming up. This Brooklyn Nets team is in a very precarious position because they have no draft picks, and I don't know. They kind of are one of the worst franchises right now in terms of what they can do for the future. So I think it's actually pretty intriguing that they're giving Clowney more minutes. I think there's more to offer offensively than Day'Ron Sharpe, which is probably the Brooklyn Nets probably already know that. Day'Ron Sharpe to me just projects as a backup. Worst case, backups, backup, or best case of backups, backup. So, I think I'm intrigued, but not enough to add him unless, Nick Claxton decides to be out for the rest of the season. Then in which case, I think you can give Clowney a look, assuming, they're going to mail it in and call it a day for the rest of the season.
Which is possible. Any of that stuff can happen. We just don't know. But I do have the definitive answer sort of on Jordan Goodwin. For my calculations, he has 4 games left on his contract, and they have 5 games left in the season. So there you go. That could be wrong. That it could also be like, because it's the NBA just does a terrible job of being able to communicate this. There's no list out there because it's about, I don't know how much you guys watching this know how they work the 2 ways when you sign them during the season. It's to do with like, if you sign it before the year, you got 50 games that you can play, right? But if you sign it at any point during the year, it's to do with the percentage of time remaining in the season based on days, not games. So there's 170 days or whatever in the NBA season. If you sign with 100 days left in the season, then whatever 100 out of 173 is a percentage, then you take that percentage of 50 games and that's the max you can get to. But so often it leads to a number that's like 14.4, which is when I calculate Jordan Goodwin's, it leads to 14.45. So does that then get rounded up to 14.5 and does that round to 15?
Rounded down.
Or does it go to 14? Yeah. I've got no idea. So he could either have 4 games out of 5 left, or they've managed it 100% perfectly now, and he can just play all 5. But I don't know. So thank you, NBA, for that pure clarity on everything, where I've had to dig around and try and find this information and try and figure it out. I don't know. So it's either 4 or 5. Maybe they have just absolutely hit the nail on the head here, and Goodwin's going to play every one of them. But who knows, man? So there you go. There's your definitive, but also not definitive answer, because we can't get that information, but I'm going to work to get more of that information as best I can through the season. Adrian Sanchez asked an important question. Dan, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I'm all right with Hawaiian. It definitely has to be accompanied by, some kind of ham. I don't know about pineapple by itself, but I can dig it. Not my first choice, but it's definitely a solid one.
No, it's 100% goated. You got to have it on there. It's you don't have to have it on there, but let me give you a hack for the Hawaiian pizza lovers out there. Someone told me once okay, so you've got your ham and pineapple, but chuck a hot salami on there as well. And then like you talk,
not mad at that.
Some people will say you put like a hot pepper on there, whatever. Because then you got the salty of the ham and
sweet
the meat,
and savory there.
You got the spicy and you got the sweet. It's actually good. It's just like when you have like hot honey chicken or something, right? Spicy, sweet, they go together. So put the salami in there with the pineapple, and it feels pretty good. Okay. Haley comes back again with a question about Duncan Robinson. Do you think he sits one night of the back-to-back? He is returning from a back issue. It is possible. Like anything is possible. I'm not really looking at that as a gigantic possibility, to be honest. I think that it's not. Back issues can be tricky. I'm more going to be worried about sitting back-to-backs when it's a long-term ligament issue or a soft tissue injury in the lower body. On this one, I think he'll be okay, but stuff happens at times, but I'm not really looking at that one down and going, Duncan's definitely sitting in the back-to-back.
Yeah, and it looks like Duncan's still kind of trying to find his way back. I mean, he's struggled in his first 2 outings, shooting 29% from the field across both of those games. I think it's going to take some time, so I wouldn't even say that he's a must roster by any means. So if you're concerned about him sitting, just know that they play on Thursday, and then they also have the Friday, Sunday thing. So you're not going to really get much use out of him anyway. So I would probably move on and find someone else that can be more valuable to you.
100%. He's not doing anything at the moment anyway. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. But here is the last question. We circle back. B-Baller says, is Kawhi Leonard a drop? And I know there's a couple of things. Oh, actually, you're here, Dan. Yahoo's got him on the can't cut list. So people can't cut him if they're in there. And with Yahoo, who's now, I know, because we've had this discussion, I know this is not you, and I know you have asked this, but like, Yahoo default leagues are finishing this week. Yahoo cash leagues are finishing this week. They shouldn't, because all Yahoo has done, apologies, Dan, you can just ignore this part as I go off on Yahoo. All Yahoo has done is go, well, fantasy football finishes 1 week early, so let's just do it for basketball. That's definitely the right answer. 100% the right answer, even though the season's 30% longer. So they just do that, right? But then, like in a situation, Damian Lillard's been out all week, Kawhi Leonard's out, and you can't cut him because they're in this stupid can't cut list. So is Kawhi Leonard a drop? Yeah, he is. Like, he's not playing the rest of this week, and I don't know what your schedule is like next week, but can you actually afford to have zeros all of this week? I know he's great, right? And we're all assuming here that you're in a situation where you don't have open IL slots for it. But there's no guarantee he plays half the games the week after either. So, like, as good as he is, if you can, Yahoo, then you do go and cut Kawhi Leonard. What do you think, Dan, without bashing your employers?
So I did notice that. And I talked to my team about it because I'm like, we just have to set the standard. Once playoffs start or just before it, the can't cut list has to go. Like, it just has to go. You should be able to have the flexibility to do whatever you want to your roster in the playoffs and what you need to do. So I think it's been overridden. It's been overridden. So we should be able to cut Kawhi Leonard within the next, give it 10 to 20 minutes. However, I would cut Kawhi Leonard. After reading, one of the Athletic beat writers just had a report about Kawhi's injury and how they're managing it. Doesn't sound like he's coming back this week, and it doesn't sound like he's going to be back even next week. Like, they're looking to the playoffs here. Like, I think the Nuggets, very similar to Jamal Murray. It's like, yo, we know where we're at. Let's just focus on the playoffs. So drop him, pick up Norman Powell or Russell Westbrook if you're desperate in points leagues.
Last one before I let you go, Dan. We had some feedback on the pineapple on pizza, and people said, what other fruits might go on pizza? And someone said caramelized pears, which is a huge W, though I agree. I think
anything caramelized is a win.
Someone said grapes. I'm not sure about that one. I haven't tried grapes before, but one that I have had are other fruits. It's not huge amounts, but are figs. You can put figs with prosciutto on pizza. Caramelized, even better. That is a huge W too. But can you think of any other fruit that you would have? Not including the fruits that are actually we think of as vegetables like tomatoes, but they're actually fruits. So anything else that you would consider there?
No, I think the figs was the underrated one. I had a fig and prosciutto, and I want to say it was like burrata or some kind of cheese on it. It was outstanding. I'm not even a fig guy, but yeah, that was definitely an underrated play. I'm trying to think of another one. Pears made sense. Definitely not apples or oranges. Man, you'd have to go into some exotic fruits, I feel like. And I can't think of any on the top of my head that I would really want to eat on a pizza.
I think there might be underrated apple value in there somewhere, but I'm not sure about that. I'll have to try. Oranges, no way. Like, that's just not going to work. Apples, maybe. Apples, maybe. And like lemons, limes, it doesn't work. But yeah, it's
nothing citrus, overly citrusy. It's just not. It's not going to work.
It is limited as to which ones you can use, but there are other options out there. If you're not a big fig guy, Dan, I'd suggest not checking out how the inside of a fig is like formed. It's like wasp shit or something. It's something so weird. I can't remember. It's something so weird. I don't remember what it is, but it's something to do with wasps in the middle of the fig. And I just remember looking at it going, really? Like, come on. We don't have to do this, do we? Oh, Jesus. All right. Anyway, so go check out figs and what happens inside them, because it's a little bit interesting. Dan, it has been a whole season of these mailbags through the regular season. You've been a part of them, and it's been awesome having you here. So thank you for that, but also tell people what is going on as the year winds down, as fantasy basketball has got, for some people, 1 week and about 3 days left.
Yeah, if you sickos are still playing fantasy basketball into week 24, we need to change that. Get with your commissioners. But I'll still have a playlist on Monday for the pickups that you need to make to close out the year. And yeah, man, some exciting stuff. A lot of collaborations across the different publications and analysts out there in the offseason. So really excited to talk to some other folks in the industry. And yeah, it's going to be a good year in offseason. So thank you for giving me the platform to join you on these mailbags. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully people got some fantasy championships in the end.
I'm sure they did. It's awesome having you, Dan. And go check out Dan's stuff over at Yahoo when his appearances every week on the Roto World podcast as well. Dan, thank you once again.
Yes, sir.
Guys, that is the end of the Mailbag Show. I am pretty sure I'm not going to do one next week, but you never know. Kingy's always keen to come on one, so maybe we'll get one cracking. We'll just see what the time is going to be on that one. So, guys, hit the old subscribe button here. Hit the thumbs up and notification bell, and I will see you in the next show. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.